Countrymen and friends, in April last, you heard my voice over another radio in another part of the world. Now I am in Tokyo, and I am accepting the hospitality of the broadcasting station here in order to speak to you again. No amount of Anglo-American propaganda can either ignore or hide the fact that after achieving brilliant victories, the forces of the Imperial Japanese Army now stand on the frontier of India.
The one man who brought a lightning thunder to the gathering storm as India made its bid towards independence. But somewhere in Indian history, Netaji's name has gone missing, a chapter taken out and dissolved in time.
A lot has been repressed and suppressed.
Very, very alluring and attractive mystery.
And I think this is India's best kept secret.
There are unanswered questions.
That all should come out in the open.
The government of India does know very well what happened to Subhash Chandra Bose. They are simply not willing to come out with it.
Subhash Chandra Bose died in 1945, but his tryst with controversy did not end with his death. It lives 65 years later. Times now turns back the pages of history books to the death of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, a puzzle that has many pieces missing. This was the last time when Netaji was seen alive. On 16th August 1945, the Allied forces bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, bringing Japan on its knees.
Let us pray that peace be now restored to the world.
2 days later, with a dozen passengers squatted on its floor, a Mitsubishi Ki-21 of the Japanese 3rd Air Force left Turin Air Base. One of the passengers was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. And with him was his close associate Habibur Rahman, trying to make a getaway to Manchuria.
I was in Burma at that time. I had to come back to India. I was still in Burma. And we first heard it on the BBC, on the radio.
In 1945, he was still in jail, my father, Subhash Chandra Bose. He got the news of the so-called accident to the plane in which Netaji was traveling and which was supposed to have crashed. He made an entry in the diary that I am deeply shocked. I cannot think of Subhash being no more.
It was Japan that supported Bose and Arzi Hukumat-e-Azad Hind, the Indian government in exile. The news of the plane crash changed everything.
Oh, I felt completely devastated and thought that our whole movement was finished and that we had no other proper leader to. And of course, I didn't know what the reaction of India would be to the INA people and INA and especially Mahatma Gandhi.
Habibur Rahman claimed that they flew from Turin in Vietnam, in the Japanese Burma, to Taipei, capital of Taiwan, that when the plane took off from Taipei airport, it crashed.
And that Netaji had suffered 90% burns and there was no hope of his revival.
That Subhash Chandra Bose died on the same day in the evening in that hospital.
The then Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru accepted Habibur Rahman's testimony as circumstantial evidence. But this was the impossible patriot. Could he have died so easily?
1946, one American war correspondent, his name was Alfred Wagg, W-A-G-G. He came to meet father. And as far as I know, he was the first person who told my father that Subhash Chandra Bose did not die in that.
Dr. Radha Binod Pal, he was a famous Indian jurist. He was a judge of International War Crime Commission in Japan, and he was told at that time in Tokyo, after the war, by top American and British intelligence and diplomats that they did not believe that Subhash died.
As pressure built up, Pandit Nehru appointed a commission under Shah Nawaz, a close associate and a general in the Indian National Army.
They interviewed about 77 persons in India, in Vietnam and in Japan. But they did not go to Taipei or Taiwan. The reason was given by the government that we do not have any diplomatic relations with the nationalist government of Chiang Kai-shek of Taiwan. So we cannot make arrangement for you to go.
Both the Shah Nawaz Commission and G.D. Khosla Commission, 14 years later, subscribed to what came to be known as the crash theory, that Netaji died in the plane crash on 18th August 1945. In 1999, the National Democratic Alliance appointed Justice M.K. Mukherjee to re-investigate into the circumstances in which Netaji died, an investigation that steered the controversy dramatically.
The Taiwanese government said that they checked up the information left by the Japanese government, the Japanese who were in charge of Taiwan before 1945. They find no evidence of the air crash.
That is the Taiwan government who had supplied with the Justice Mukherjee Commission that there is no record of any air crash in Taipei or anywhere in Taiwan.
The story that the country was made to believe now seemed to be a cover-up. The death of Bose, as Justice Mukherjee unravelled, was again open for conjecture.
The Japanese cremation register for that corresponding period became available after Justice Mukherjee went to Taiwan. Initially, he was not allowed to go to Taiwan. Now, surprisingly, it doesn't talk about Subhash Chandra Bose. Now, let me assume, for argument's sake, there was some kind of secrecy which was to be maintained. But even the name of the other 5 people who supposedly died in the crash, they are also not there.
All these discrepancies, if you put together, and besides that, the circumstantial evidences, as well as the report which you get from the Taiwan and Taihoku, that made me that there is no death certificate, there is no police certificate, there is no cremation certificate, nothing was there.
In the late 90s, Purabhi Roy was part of a government-sponsored research project on Indo-Russian relations. The 68-year-old Russian scholar has been on Bose's trail for over a decade now.
And the British made the first report under the supervision of Figgis, the then intelligence officer in British High Commission in Tokyo. After completing that report in 1945, they found that it is completely a deceptive story. It's a deception. And then they came to know that there were rumors and there were flashes in the newspapers that Subhash Chandra Bose is in Russia.
So was the news of the plane crash only a cover-up story? And did Netaji survive?
So I was hunting or working at least on 12 to 14 archives in Russian, that time already Russian, 92. And along with my friends and academics, there in the Ministry of External Affairs, in the Ministry of Home Affairs, in the other places, I started unraveling certain facts about him. He escaped to Russia, the erstwhile Soviet Union, crossing the border of that Manchurian side. So, right from the beginning, both the sides, both the INA sides and the British government, later on the Indian government, that time interim government was running, they wanted to cover it. Whereas Gandhi knew, Sharad Bose, his brother, knew, all the intelligence officers, they knew MI1, MI2, MI4, MI5. If you go through the reports, there the doubts are going on with these officers, including Hugh Toy.
1956 onwards, Bose's name stops appearing with the Russian context.